Hi, I'm Ray Hager, standing in for Sam Shadden. Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. Today's guest is Heidi Howe. She's a candidate for Washoe County Sheriff. And on our pundit panel, we have Robin Reedy, Susan Fisher, and John Sande IV. That's all coming up next on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
From your house to the White House, the folks at D&D Roofing can get it fixed with their eyes closed.
Nearly 200,000 Nevadans work in retail businesses, supporting families and the community. Nevada's retail businesses generated over $2 billion in sales tax revenue in 1 year, including nearly $700 million to help our schools. Shop around and see all that Nevada's retailers offer our state.
We're the Retail Association of Nevada, representing thousands of Nevada businesses.
Businesses that work for Nevada.
Pro Group Management is the place where companies can find workers' comp solutions that are designed to meet their specific business requirements. As regulations evolve, Pro Group takes a proactive approach to clear the path to make sure your business stays ahead of the curve. Knowing your workers' comp program is optimized, you can focus on other important matters related to your growing business. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Safety is the #1 priority for the trucking industry. Over $7 billion a year is spent on technology, like this electronic eye, that will apply the brakes automatically. But the most important factor for safety is the truck driver. These hardworking men and women who safely move over 70% of our nation's freight and 94% of Nevada's. We thank you because trucks move America forward.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
Hi, welcome back. Today's guest, of course, is retired Washoe County Sheriff's Department Captain Heidi Howe, who is a candidate for sheriff in this month's election. Welcome to you, Heidi.
Thank you.
Heidi, you know, when you talk about Washoe County Sheriff, I really see you breaking a huge glass ceiling. If you win, would you be the first female sheriff in the history of Washoe County?
In the history of Washoe County, yes. There have been 6 other female sheriffs in the state, but not Washoe County.
Okay, what do you feel about that, being such a trendsetter or a glass breaker, whatever you want to call it?
Really not the intention. It's about having the right person with the right experience in the job that wants to tackle what's going on in our community when it comes to public safety. Just happens to be that I'm a female.
Okay, now how long did you work for the Washoe County Sheriff's Department before your retirement? Was it last year?
26 years.
26 years. So you know the department up and down, sideways and back, I would assume.
A little bit. 20 of those years was in a supervisory role. So that would mean you have deputy as your bottom level line folks, and then you have sergeant, lieutenant, and captain. And then above captain, you get into political appointments. So that would be your assistant sheriff positions, under sheriff positions.
Okay. Now, in September, Heidi, you filed a federal lawsuit claiming discrimination and being passed over for promotion based on your gender. And I'm just thinking from what comments people have told me, do you think that a good old boy culture is ingrained in the Washoe County Sheriff's Office?
No, it's been alive and well for decades. I would like people to understand that this particular case, this is procedural filings, it's not political. So this is not an article that came from me. I was time limited as to whether I could file or not. The original complaint came out in February of 2017. And then it went through an investigative process, and this has been going on for 1.5 years. There was an attempt at mediation that didn't move forward, And then I was given what's called a right to sue letter, which gives you 90 days to file. And that was time limited. So I didn't have a choice. I filed. Didn't mean I needed to move forward with the case, but I filed, and within 24 hours, the Reno Gazette-Journal picked up on the filing and then wrote a story about it.
Right, well, they're good at doing things like
Correct.
that. Let me get back to this good old boy culture of the Sheriff's Department. Could you expand on that? Has that held you back at all in your career? Or is it something you fought?
I think it's had an impact on a lot of individuals in the organization, because this isn't all about me.
Right.
We have a ton of really talented people who've been in the organization, and depending on a lot of different factors, you're either part of the in-group or not, obviously. And I've watched over the years as particular individuals are groomed for certain positions and given opportunity when other people are not. And then we end up losing talented people in the organization. They walk out the door and go to other agencies because they feel like they're not represented in the agency.
Do you think, when you talk about these other people, or do you mean a majority of female deputies and such?
Well, I can tell you right now, we have a lot fewer females in the upper ranks, in supervisory ranks now, than we've had over the years because of some of the policies and practices that have been implemented.
If you're elected, what happens to your lawsuit?
That's a very good question. Right now, I don't know where that's going to go. I really don't see that it's going to be very productive to move forward with that if I'm the one who's there trying to fix it.
Right.
So, I mean, I would use logic in that, and I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens in the election.
Okay, now Heidi, about this good old boy culture, if elected, what would you do to maybe change that culture?
Well, there's a lot of things that you really have to take a look at. And part of the conversation I've had with folks out there is, what is the mindset of policing? What is our job? Is our job to be warriors of our community or guardians of our community? And I know there are times where you have to put on a warrior hat and take care of business, but the majority of the time, what are you doing? You're being a guardian of your community. And I tried to have conversations with my staff about that mindset. And when I did that, I was called into my chief's office the following day and asked if I had a conversation with my staff about guardian versus warrior policing. And I said I had, and he told me that ultimately he agreed with the concept. However, we had a lot of people who identified as warriors in our ranks, and I was directed not to discuss it anymore. And I see that as a challenge and a problem when you're trying to build better relationships with your community. You have to be willing to even have conversations about things that you might disagree on as you're moving to the future of your organization. And foundationally, I want to make sure that our new deputies that are coming into the ranks understand what their role is in society and who they work for. They work for the people. And then not only that, from the top down, you lead by example with that, and you expect that of your people. So as time goes on, and it'll take time to shift a culture and an attitude from the bottom and from the top, to finally we get to a point where we have better relationships with our community.
Okay, well said. Heidi, let's take a break right here, and I got some other questions when we come back. We'll be right back with Heidi Howe, candidate for Washoe County Sheriff, right after these few words.
Tamarack Junction is South Reno's hotspot with over 450 of the latest slots and video games. Sully's Sports Bar, the Dining Car Restaurant, William Hill Sportsbook, and the Tamarack Steakhouse and Lounge. We're just north of the Summit Mall in South Virginia. Yeah.
Dean Heller made a promise to Nevada.
I cannot support a piece of legislation that takes insurance away from hundreds of thousands of Nevadans.
But when Donald Trump threatened Dean Heller, he caved. Here's what that means to Nevada.
In 2003, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis.
Under Dean Heller's plan, I could be denied coverage.
I was 45 years old and I had a stroke. I would have been in debt for the rest of my life.
As long as Dean Heller is in office, I am afraid.
SMP is responsible for the content of this ad.
We already know NV Energy is lying. But did you know NV Energy has been cheating too? NV Energy's own documents show it overcharged Nevadans by $346 million, even overcharging our schools, and then handed millions in bonuses to top executives. A scheme even the Public Utilities Commission called excessive. Now, NV Energy has launched a $30 million no-on-3 scare campaign, all so they can continue to raise your rates. Lying, cheating, scheming. Imagine what else they have in store.
The signs and symptoms of cataracts can start out small with subtle changes in your vision. So don't wait. Be proactive and take your vision into your own hands. If you're experiencing the onset of cataracts or just have questions, contact your eye care professional or call Eye Care Associates of Nevada today. Dr. Hiss has years of experience specializing in the surgical correction of eye disorders and has completed over 84,000 vision correcting procedures. At Eye Care Associates of Nevada, we'll change the way you look at the world.
The Tamarack Junction Steakhouse is known for signature steaks, handcrafted cocktails, and world-class wines. Join us Thursdays and Friday nights from 4:30 to 6:30 in the Steakhouse Lounge for live music, gourmet plates, and well-priced wines, just north of the Summit Mall on South Virginia.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
Welcome back to Nevada Newsmakers. Our guest, of course, today is retired Washoe County Sheriff's Office Captain Heidi Howe, running for the sheriff's position in this month's general election. Heidi, you were a jail captain during the time when 13 inmates died in the Washoe County Jail, which was reported by the Reno Gazette-Journal and was one of the top stories of the year in 2017. As a captain, do you hold any responsibility in your mind for those deaths or the way that the jail was run?
Well, I always believe in extreme ownership. So, it goes all the way to the top. Not only me, but anybody else that is above me. And what was going on at the time, and a lot of folks don't really understand, is that the sheriff's office has had contracts for years with for-profit private vendors that provide medical and mental health care. And they expect pretty much law enforcement people to be managing those contracts and holding people accountable. Well, as I was trying to hold people accountable to their contract, what I ran into was pushback. And that was pushback from the top down. As I tried to hold people accountable, I was asked if a different liaison should be working with the medical vendor because I was creating some friction with them. There was a large nexus to some of those deaths with medical and mental health care with the provider. And we had moved away from one provider, Armor Medical, and they had been there for just about a year. And when our new sheriff came in, I was directed about 3 months into that person's term that we need to be looking at a different vendor. And that's what we did. We ended up going with what's called a joinder contract with one that was already existing down in Las Vegas with the Vegas jail. And what happened with that is that particular vendor underbid their staffing. So they didn't have enough staff to really be dealing with the issues and the severity of the medical and mental health care that we have here in Northern Nevada. I think it's a bit different than what they were experiencing in Las Vegas. And eventually what ended up happening finally after I retired is they brought that staffing level up to what it should have been from the beginning. And when that occurred, the deaths actually slowed down.
So it was in one part a staffing issue.
There was a training issue there as well. So I'm not going to say that it's completely connected to the medical contract, but a large portion of that was.
Okay, and we're talking about the provider being NAFCare, is that correct?
That is the one that is currently there, yes.
And they were already a provider at the Clark County.
Correct.
In Clark County. So Sheriff Allen did not have to go through the same procedures to bring them on board as he would. Could you maybe explain that?
So we were, you have to have a provider there. And if you make the decision to step away from a provider, very quickly you have to figure out how you're going to adapt to that. And going back out to a full bidding process takes months and months to do. And we had just signed into that contract a year before, and NAFCare had been one of the people that had bid on the previous contract and was one of the top companies that were being considered at the time. So it wasn't that they weren't completely vetted before that period of time. It's just that when they said, we can fulfill your requirements of what you need us to do with this many staff, they were wrong. It's kind of like playing Name That Tune. I can name that tune in 2 notes, and then you find out they can't. And I brought that to their attention. I actually recommended that we possibly go back out to bid on that, but that it wasn't the decision of the executive staff at the time.
Okay, what is the situation now in the Washoe County Jail as far as staffing, and who is the medical provider?
Medical provider is still NAFCare. They went back out to bid on that, and they ended up giving that bid to NAFCare yet again. The one thing I can say is that at least they increased their staffing numbers. And I believe that's had a huge impact on what's going on there now.
If elected, will you keep NAFCare as the medical provider?
I think we need to take a much harder look at what we do and the investment of whoever's providing that care. I would like to find a way to get away from the for-profit model. I'd like to utilize local providers and nonprofits that are in our community that are more vested here in order to possibly take over the medical care and mental health care of the inmate population. If we have that continuity of care, then it's less likely that people that are being released from custody are going to be unstable when it comes to mental health issues and medical issues, and less likely to go out and commit more crime and come back into the jail or clog up our emergency rooms.
Mental health in Washoe County, that seems to be such a key problem across the county, but then it really comes together, it seems like, in the jail, because a lot of the people that you arrest or put in the jail may have mental health problems.
We have an overrepresentation of the mentally ill in the jail, no doubt about that. Right now I'm seeing some progress with the county and the city and also the state. And I don't know if you're aware that some of the buildings over on the Galletti campus of Northern Nevada Adult Mental Health Services, those buildings have been vacant for some time. The county and the city just got into an agreement with them to take over some of those buildings. And there's a discussion on a much larger scale of what we're going to do to tackle some of those mental health and substance abuse issues and homelessness issues. Mm-hmm. And I had a conversation recently with the head of the Human Services Agency, formerly known as Social Services. And one of the things that I would like to do is a law enforcement alternative diversion program. And you go, what the heck does that mean? That means law enforcement, we have a lot of discretion on whether we arrest somebody or not. Mm-hmm. And what we could do is, instead of taking people to jail for low-level, non-violent misdemeanor crimes like sleeping in the park, like defrauding an innkeeper, which means dine and dash, open containers, a lot of things that get people that are suffering from mental illness and substance use disorders or co-occurring disorders, that we could take them to a diversion specialist, maybe over at the Galletti campus, and connect them with resources in the community rather than criminalizing their behavior.
Okay. Heidi, great answer. We got to stop it right there. Thank you for coming in today.
Oh, thank you.
And good luck with your campaign.
Thank you very much.
We'll be right back with our Power Pundit panel right after these few words.
At first, I thought we were in love, but then the abuse started. The worst literally almost killed me. When charges were pressed, I had no idea how confusing the legal process could be. But having equal rights to my abuser would have helped me in my understanding of what was happening in my case.
It's a story that happens too often in Nevada, but we can fix it. Question 1 will ensure crime victims are informed,
giving victims the right to notification and a voice in the process. Crime victims deserve equal rights.
Vote yes on Question 1.
Here's award-winning Nevada teacher, Jeff Hinton.
One concern about Question 3 is that it would increase electric bills paid by consumers. As a teacher, I'm also concerned about how 3 would impact school budgets. School buildings use a lot of electricity. Question 3 would force school districts to pay higher electric bills. That means we'd have less money for classroom education for our kids. Please join our coalition and vote no on 3. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dave Newman. Remember me? I used to be the house detective, and now I'm a realtor, full-time at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates. And a lot of people ask me, how's the market? You know what? It's fantastic. If you're even kicking around the idea of buying or selling, give me a call. Let's talk about it. Call me at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates and just ask for the guy who used to be the house detective, Dave Newman.
Everyone is talking about opioids, but they're not the only drugs that can be harmful if taken in large quantities or not as prescribed. You also need to be aware of side effects from anxiety drugs, muscle relaxants, sleep aids, and stimulants. Mixing prescription drugs with other drugs or alcohol can be dangerous. If you take Ambien with a glass of wine, it may be enough to stop you from breathing. Prescribed drugs can be just as dangerous as illegal drugs. Take medications only as directed.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
Welcome back to an all-star pundit panel. Let me introduce our guests. First, we have Robin Reedy, the Executive Director of the National Alliance on Mental Health of Nevada. Welcome to you, Robin. Then we have John Sande IV, lobbyist for Argentum Partners and a former Stanford football player, along with your father. I want to mention that. Both stars for the Stanford Cardinal. And last but not least, Susan Fisher, Vice President, Government Affairs Group for McDonald, Carano, Wilson.
Thank you.
Welcome to you all.
Thank you for having us.
Well, yesterday, Nevada politics had some shocking news where Dennis Hoff, a shoo-in assembly candidate who looked like he was going to win, also a well-known brothel owner, star of HBO's Cat House, he died in his sleep. And, well, Robin, let me start with you. Were you shocked when you heard this, or what are your reactions?
I was actually quite surprised when I saw it come across my screen in an alert, and only in Nevada. I mean, these are the things that go on. So first questions is, you know, I know they can't get him off the ballot, and if he wins, the GOP appoints, and I know how passionate Nye County is down in that area. So it'll be interesting to see what the result of this election ends up being.
Well, John, it's a complicated process, to say the least, to pick his replacement if he wins the election.
That's right.
Because you have 3 different counties that you have to get input from. Where do you see this going?
So yeah, I mean, just to maybe add a little color to that. I mean, the district that this happened to couldn't be more fascinating. You have a relatively conservative district, which actually probably, I think most people would say, will likely elect a dead person. I mean, at first I wanted to say that I was really saddened to hear of the news. I was shocked, and obviously there's a lot of controversy and provocativeness around his candidacy. And I think everybody can have their opinions on that, but I think we can all agree that it's a tragic event when anybody passes away. But now moving forward to what this means, it's an interesting district, and like I said, that the district could actually elect somebody that's deceased, and then how do you fill that position? Most counties, district is located all within one county, so one county commission can actually pick the replacement. But we have a district that is so geographically broad in rural Nevada that there's 3 counties that are going to have a say in who that replacement is, and I think it's going to be fascinating to see where that all falls when it all happens.
Fascinating or frustrating?
Right.
Susan, I wanted to ask you, of course, Mr. Hoff owned brothels in Lyon County, and in this. On the ballot in Lyon County this month will be a referendum on the brothel business if they should remain legalized in the county. Of course, they provide a lot of tax money. Do you think Dennis Hoff's death will have an impact on that referendum in Lyon County?
I don't know. I haven't spent a lot of time in Lyon County, and I don't know what sort of outreach is going out to voters there to push the issue, the ballot initiative. So I don't really know. Part of me thinks that for the same reason that John says that he may still end up being the victor in this race, it may not have any impact at all. Maybe the people who want it out of there want the brothels out, it's not so much about Hoff as it is the brothels themselves. So it may just go ahead and go forward as though nothing happened.
But Hoff is a showman, and I think he would have been a push on the side of not getting rid of that may not happen now.
Yeah.
So I do think that will have an impact.
Yeah, but as John said, for the replacement, if he is the victor, you've got Clark County, which is made up, Clark County Commission, all Democrats, and Nye County Commission, I don't know this for a fact, but I would assume they're probably all Republicans.
They are.
And then
Esmeralda.
Lander.
Is it Lander?
Not Lander. Lincoln County is the other county. So you're going to have some very divergent views on who should be the replacement.
But it has to be a Republican.
It has to be a Republican, correct. Yeah. If he is the victor. You know, Lisa Romanoff is working very hard. And it wouldn't be
that's
the Democrat.
The Democrat opponent.
Right, and it wouldn't be the first time that a Democrat has won in that district. Assemblyman Roy Neighbors served in there from 1993 to 2001. And he was a Democrat.
Well, as the page turns in Nevada politics, we got to sign off on this pundit panel. But we'll be right back after this to wrap up this edition of Nevada Newsmakers.
A bird's eye captures its surroundings at different heights. At Brian Culpa Photography, we can make your imagination soar over buildings, parks, cityscapes, and beyond. Brian's images tell the story and get the job done. If you need a new perspective to tell your story, contact Brian today. Brian Culpa Photography. Experience the bird's eye view at brianculpaphotography.com.
Hi, my name's Marilyn Miner, and I'm sure you'd agree that Nevada's a very special place to live. I was born here, and my husband and I have raised our family here. I feel it's a privilege to live and work in the Truckee Meadows. I especially enjoy helping my clients reach their real estate goals. Sometimes the smallest details provide the greatest satisfaction. I'd be complimented to talk to you about your next move.
Call Marilyn Miner at Dixon Realty, 742-1280, or log on to marilynminer.com.
St. Ives Florist, for every holiday and every special occasion. For romance. Custom home design. We have the largest selection of fresh flowers in northern Nevada. And we also offer a large selection of unique gift items. Come see me, Lori Ann, at St. Ives Florist, 700 South Wells Avenue, or call me at 333-9190.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Thanks for watching. Tomorrow's guest will be Mike Higdon. He's the city life reporter for the Reno Gazette-Journal. We'll see you then.